Besides, how are you employed?
Police officer for the city of San Antonio.
And what is your current rank with SAP?
Detective.
So, how long have you been with SAP?
30 years.
So, I'm really bad at math. What year did you start?
1994.
Prior to that, did you have any other law enforcement experience?
Yes.
And what was that?
Military law enforcement.
And how long?
4 years prior to SAPD.
What branch of service?
Air Force.
So, when you came to SAPD, what was the process of becoming an officer?
We attend the San Antonio Police Academy, get the basic training that's provided there, learning the traffic law, the penal code, report writing, those types of things.
And how long is the academy?
6 months.
So after you get out of the academy, you go straight on to patrol?
We do a probationary year. Back then, when I came out, I think we did 18 months with a field training officer. We kind of rotated through 3 of them, where we're riding with an experienced officer who's kind of guiding us and making sure we're doing things the right way.
And so, how long were you on patrol?
I was on patrol for 14 years.
What kind of duties did you have as a patrol officer?
Just your basic patrol. I was assigned to the west side, answering calls for service, conducting traffic enforcement. I then transferred over to another part of the city, and I worked in the San Antonio Fear-Free Environment Unit, SAFE Unit, which is a community policing unit. I was assigned to that unit for about just a few years, not long.
And so what's the process of moving from patrol to being a detective?
We take a written exam. Every officer is eligible after 5 years on patrol now. Back then it was 2 years on patrol. You could test for detective. Now it's 5 years. So it's a written exam. You study for it. Covers our general manual, which is rules and regulations, our processes and policies, and the penal code, and a textbook that's required reading.
And so when did you promote to detective?
In 2008.
When you initially promoted, where were you assigned?
I was assigned to the North Property Crimes Unit of Jones-Maltzberger at the North Substation.
And how long did you do that?
I did that for a few years and then transferred to the Robbery Unit. That was also housed out in the North Substation. And then they centralized downtown under a task force. I went there for a little bit. My wife didn't like the fact that I had to dress kind of trashy, so she made me go back to the Property Crimes Unit. So I did that. And then I left the Property Crimes Unit in 2013 and went to the Homicide Unit.
And so, are you currently within the Homicide Unit?
Yes.
And so, from 2013 to today, have you remained within the Homicide Unit?
Yes.
As far as your roles in being a detective within the Homicide Unit, what happens when, how do you get assigned cases?
We have a rotation. We have a certain number of detectives and we build a rotation. When you're at the top of that list, you're up for the next case. Once you catch that case, you go to the bottom. It allows you time to work and investigate that case.
And so, once you're assigned a case, what's your general duties?
Once we're assigned, we're initially notified of the incident, right? Patrol normally makes the call, gets there first. They tell us what they've got, and then we'll respond to the scene. For example, in this case, I was told that they were at the hospital and that we needed to come out there. So we respond there, we make contact with the officers, get more detail about what's going on, and then we determine who our witnesses are, people that we need to talk to.
Okay, so you use the information you get from patrol or dispatch, you get to the scene, talk to people, and that makes kind of guides your investigation from there?
Yes.
As it relates to the case involving a deceased child by the name of Benjamin Cervera with a date of birth of September 28th of 2016, were you assigned to investigate his death?
Yes.
How were you notified to go to the hospital?
We were contacted by phone from the officers at the hospital. That was on August 17th, 2021, and we were notified probably around 12:30 p.m.
Okay. So you get notified on August 17th of 2021. You go to which hospital?
It was the Children's Hospital downtown.
And so once you get there, who's the first person you speak to?
The officer, the handling officer.
Do you remember his name?
I do not.
Would having a copy of the report refresh your memories of that fact?
Yes.
This exercise, I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 221 for identification purposes. Does that appear to be your report?
Yes, it is.
And if you could just look at it and refresh your memory as to the officer you first spoke with.
The handling officer was Officer Hoyos.
Okay. So you speak to him, does he give you a general overview of what he's gathered so far?
Yes, he did.
And based on that information, what did you do next?
I went to view the body of the deceased child.
Okay. I'm going to refer to him as Benji. So where was Benji?
Benji was in one of the, I guess, examination rooms on a gurney.
Okay. And is that the first time you saw Benji?
Yes.
What did he appear like to you?
He had multiple bruises on his body, and he appeared to be extremely underweight, small.
At that point, had you already made a determination or assumption what was the cause of his death?
No.
So you go look at Benji. After you look at his body, what do you do next?
I then speak to the detective that's there with me to assist, Detective Ferguson, and we come up with our game plan of who we need to talk to, where we need to talk to them. There at the hospital, I did contact Miranda and Brandon, Brandon the father, Miranda the wife of Brandon, and just explain to them why we were there, why we needed to speak to them, because we need to figure out what happened to Benji.
And when you said father, Brandon, what was his last name?
Cervera.
Do you have a date of birth for him?
Your Honor, if we could not have date of birth disclosed over the media.
So long as there's no issue as it relates to the age of the defendant for purposes of any type of legal argument.
If you could ask for the age of the defendant instead of the date of birth, that would be a little bit more.
It requires some answer. We'll try.
No worries, but that would be wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
At the time you spoke to Brandon Cervera, Sr., was he at least 17 years old?
Yes.
Okay. You see Brandon Cervera in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And can you point at him and identify by piece of clothing?
He's wearing the gray coat and the light blue shirt.
Your Honor, I'd have to have a reflective witness as identify the defendant. So you talk to Miranda, you talk to Brandon, and then what happens next?
I asked, we'll get consent from Miranda just to photograph her vehicle because she had brought Benji to the hospital in her car, and we just wanted to get photographs of it. And then she was transported to our office. We explained to her we needed to get a statement from her, and she agreed. Talked to Brandon and explained to him that we need to do the same. He drove himself to the hospital in his pickup, and he asked, or I believe it was a pickup, he asked if we could give the keys to his brother, and we asked him if he could hold on to the apartment key, which he did, and we gave the keys to his brother. We asked that because we wanted to see if he'd give us consent to go take a look at their apartment, see if there was anything there that could kind of help us figure out what happened to Benji.
And was the defendant transported downtown?
Yes.
When you get downtown, who speaks to Miranda? Who speaks to Miranda when you go downtown?
To Miranda?
Yes.
I did.
And who spoke to the defendant?
Detective Ferguson.
When you were talking to Miranda, did she show you some videos?
She did.
And on what device did she show you videos?
On her cell phone.
And who did those videos, did they contain a person in them?
Yes.
And who was that person?
Benji.
What was the kind of nature of the videos? Let me ask it this way. Eventually, do you learn that the home has security cameras?
Yes,
Was one of those videos you viewed security camera footage?
it was.
And in that video, did that video contain Benji?
Yes.
The other video, was it surveillance video?
It was cell phone camera video.
Okay. So after you speak to both Miranda and the defendant, what happens next?
From there, they're released. We tell them we have to continue the investigation, and I need to wait for an autopsy to be conducted on Benji.
So when you talk to Miranda, and after she shows you the videos on her cell phone, did you get consent to search the cell phone?
She did provide consent.
And did Mr. Cervera provide consent to photograph the apartment?
Yes.
Were you present in the apartment was photographed?
I was not.
Did you review the photographs after they were taken?
Yes. We had another detective present at that apartment during that time.
Okay. Who did you turn the cell phone video to in order for it to be extracted or downloaded?
Our digital forensics unit, their detectives there are trained on downloading cell phone, or doing the data extractions.
Okay. Was anybody else talk to you that night?
There were some other people talked to. I'm trying to remember if it was that day or not. I know there were other family members there at the hospital, but I don't think we spoke to them that day. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Brandon Jr. was actually interviewed by Child Safe that day. Not at our office, that's somewhere else.
Okay, we'll circle back to that in a minute.
Okay. And I'm just checking these other dates real quick. Candace Sanchez, was it also provided a statement?
Okay, and how
That was-
was her relationship to the defendant?
Benji's aunt.
Would that have been Brandon's sister?
Yes. And then Julia Center. That's who called 911. I think she encountered Miranda when Miranda was transporting Benji to the hospital. Tried to help her.
Okay.
That statement, though, wasn't taken until much later.
Okay.
And I believe that was it.
Did you speak to the Benji's biological mother?
We did. I didn't speak to her directly. I know that she was, that day she was very, very distraught.
So she spoke to her different name?
Yes.
So, you have, going back to the day of Benji's death, you speak to Miranda, you speak to the defendant, and that's when you said you needed to wait on an autopsy.
Yes.
Did you talk to Dr. Molina at any point?
It was, I did briefly speak to her prior to, because I wanted, or to the medical examiner's office. It was probably to an investigator, because I wanted to relay the information that I had been given by Miranda and information that was given by Brandon. We've been told that Benji was hitting himself, causing injuries to himself. So we needed to let them know that in case there was some question about some of the injuries he had, they would have somewhat of maybe an explanation as to why he had those.
Okay. Eventually, do you speak to Dr. Molina?
Yes.
You know roughly when that was?
Right after the autopsy that day.
Okay. And what was the purpose of talking to her?
I didn't attend. This was during that COVID time where they kind of shut us off and didn't want us there unless we absolutely had to be there, which was rare. So I wanted to talk to her and kind of get an idea of which direction we were going, mainly to find out if any injury he had was fatal. She told me there was not any fatal injury, but she also made a point to let me know that some of the injuries he had were in places where they could not have been self-inflicted.
Okay. And so you talked to Dr. Molina at that point, the day after the autopsy?
It was probably later that day after the autopsy or the day after.
I'm going to object and ask for a limiting instruction. We are not, they're getting into injuries that have nothing to do with starvation or dehydration or medical care.
Are you offering these under 3837?
We'd be offering injuries under 3837, but continue to go somewhere else. Not as relates to these particular injuries, but his communication to Dr. Molina.
Okay. And Ms. Sawyers, you're asking for limiting instruction at this time?
Yes.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, it is necessary that I read you this short instruction. The defendant is on trial solely on the charge contained in the indictment. The state may introduce in evidence acts other than the ones charged in the indictment. With reference to those other acts, you are instructed that said evidence was admitted only for the purpose of showing, if it does, the state of mind of the defendant and the child, and the previous and subsequent relationship between the defendant and the child. You cannot consider said evidence for any purpose unless you find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed such act or acts, if any were committed. If you so find beyond a reasonable doubt, you can consider the evidence only for the purpose allowed. The evidence may not be considered to prove the character of the defendant in order to show that he acted in conformity therewith on the occasion in question. Thank you very much, Mr. Villarreal. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, you talked to Dr. Molina after the autopsy, or after the autopsy. Did you ever speak to her again?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of speaking to her then?
I needed to provide some information to her that we found on Miranda's cell phone.
Okay. Detective Size, I'm going to show you what has been marked State's Exhibit number 77 for identification purposes. Do you recognize that disc?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
My initials and my badge number on it.
So have you previously reviewed this disc?
Yes.
And what does it contain?
Phone messages.
And the report, again, is this from the cell phone that you received consent from Miranda to complete the extraction on?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what I'm marking for identification purposes. The State's Exhibit 222. Is this the statement information supplement that the defendant filled out as it relates to his contact information and identifying information?
Yes.
And the phone number that's shown on State's Exhibit number 22, is that the same phone number that is communicating with the Miranda's phone? Yes, the same phone number on State's Exhibit 222 that the defendant provided, is that the same phone number that is contained on State's Exhibit number 77?
Yes.
And that's the phone number that's communicating with Miranda?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 78. Do you recognize that disc?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that disc to be?
Some home security footage also has my initial badge number on it.
So have you previously reviewed this disc?
Yes.
And the videos that are on State's Exhibit number 78, are those the same types of videos similar to what Miranda showed you on August 17th of 2021?
Yes.
And do all of these videos, do they depict a person, at least one person?
Yes.
Do they all at least depict Benji?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 79. Do you recognize that disc?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
My initials and badge number, they're also on the disc.
And are these videos that were taken from Miranda's cell phone?
Yes.
And do they all contain Benji?
Yes.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 80A and 80B. Do you recognize both of these discs?
Yes.
Did you initial both of these discs?
I did.
And did you review both of these discs?
Yes.
As it relates to 80A, I'm going to talk about 80A and 80B. Do they contain the same video?
Yes.
Just one has some redactions from it.
Yes.
And State's 80B, the voices that are contained on that video, do you recognize those voices?
Yes.
And whose voices do you recognize those to be?
Miranda and Brandon.
Okay. Brandon being the defendant?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 223. Do you recognize that disc?
Yes.
And did you initial that disc?
I did.
And did you review that disc?
Yes.
Does this contain a video of Benji as well?
Yes.
Going back to State's Exhibit number 79, the phone videos, there's a video on there with Benji where you can hear another voice, correct?
Yes.
Did you recognize that voice?
I did.
And who did you recognize that voice to be?
The defendant.
There's a video on there that appears to be surveillance video. In there, other than Benji, did you recognize another voice?
Yes.
And whose voice did you recognize that to be?
The defendant.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to admit State's Exhibits number 77, 78, 77, 78, 79, 80D, and 223.
And subject to prior question, Your Honor, on State's Exhibit 79, number 2, we're objecting to that because there's no evidence for any voice or any male voice cannot be heard, and so therefore there's no link to him or whether he is even aware of this message.
Would you like a response, Judge? Or do we need your approach?
I might be confused. Please come forward. And 223 are admitted and may be published.
I'm going to start with State's Exhibit number 79. So looking at the PDF on State's Exhibit number 79, first I want to talk about what's labeled as Video 1. What date does it say that this video was created?
August 13th, 2021.
So that will be how many days before Benji got this?
4.
voice that you just heard, you recognize that voice?
Yes,
And whose voice do you recognize that to be?
the defendant.
And what did you hear him say?
He's cursing at Benji, talking about the bread.
Specifically, did you hear him say, cry for my bread, bro, and I'm going to put your fucking ass in squats?
Yes,
And again, this is 4 days before he dies.
yes.
I'm going to show you video number 2. What date was this created?
August 14th, 2021.
How many days before, how many days would that be before Benji dies?
3.
Come please. Come please. Dad. Dad. Come please.
What did you hear Benji say?
He's asking for bread, asking his dad for bread,
And again, who's Benji's dad?
the defendant.
I'm going to go to video number 3. What date was this created?
June 8th, 2021.
So, 2 months approximately before, 2.5 maybe, before he dies.
Yes.
Come on, the process. Now. Nobody told you to fucking go around. Nobody told you. Pause it. Let's hear that.
During your review of the cell phone, were you able to recover multiple videos of this angle of the camera?
Yes.
And what part of the apartment is this?
The kitchen.
In review of the photograph, did it appear to be a camera in the kitchen?
Yes.
I'm going to move to State's Exhibit A and B. Now, the file pathway name, 2021, or rather the file name, 2021-08-16. August 16th, what, was that the day before Benji died?
Yes.
And I'm trying to get on the water heater and fucking come.
Okay, then you just fucking close the door, come to the fucking room and close the fucking door, right?
Yeah, but he's waking up the fucking boys.
So that means for you to scream at him?
Like you don't. He does it every fucking night.
If I'm not screaming at him in the middle of the fucking night.
No, you do.
So the two voices on the recording, the female voice, the parent female voice, who was that?
Miranda,
And the male voice?
the defendant.
From your review of the case, as well as the phone and the videos from the phone, did you learn who would be crying at night?
Yes,
Who was that?
Benji.
In this case, based on the conversation, what would Benji be screaming for?
Bread and water.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. One is not specific to a video, and he has no personal knowledge.
Are you questioning speculation?
Speculation, I'm sorry.
As to the last answer, what Benji would be screening for, is that a good question?
Yes.
That objection is sustained.
And Judge, if I can just briefly respond.
Yes.
From that video, they're talking about water. I don't think it's speculation.
Then I ask that it be rephrased because that's not how he asked the question.
If you could rephrase your question to
That video, what was Benji asking for based on that night in that video?
An objection, we never hear Benji ask for anything in that video. We hear crying.
So, Mr. Dario, are you speaking as to, there's a reference in that video as to water?
Yes.
Okay, I think you might have to go over that to determine whether there is or.
I'll go through the surveillance videos first, so it's I didn't clear, Judge.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to open for you State's Exhibit number 78, which is the surveillance videos. So as it relates to this, can you see how many videos are contained on State's Exhibit number 78?
It says, indicates 29 videos,
Okay. So I want to talk about video number 1. What date was this created?
June 8th, 2021.
I want to pause for a second. Who is this in the video?
Leonidas,
And who is this?
Benji,
And who is this over here?
Brandon Jr.
So going to August 17th of 2021, when the home was searched, when the apartment was searched and photographed, was there something in the doorway here?
Yes,
What was it?
a gate.
Okay. Does it appear on this video that that gate is present here?
No.
And in that video, what do you see Benji doing?
Appears he brings something to Leonidas, a cup or something to drink.
For the video number 2, what date was this created?
July 23rd, 2021.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to any questions about what's going on in the video. The jury has the evidence. This particular witness was not physically there. He's no more capable of viewing the videos than anybody else. So questions as to what he sees or doesn't see, I'm going to object to.
I'll allow him to describe what he sees in an item of evidence, but as to any speculation, I will sustain the objection as to Detective Side speculating as to what Benji's intent or maybe.
I will follow the rules of evidence, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who is this?
Benji,
And can you see the lights? Who usually slept, or whose bed disappeared?
Brandon Jr.
Okay. And you agree with this is a trash can down here?
Yes,
And then Benji takes something out of the trash can.
yes.
Are you able to tell based on your experience as a dad what that item you took out was?
Objection, speculation.
I haven't finished my question.
If you can finish your question, Mr. Villarreal.
You have kids?
I do.
How old are they now?
22 and 19.
Okay. God bless you.
Yeah,
So, you help raise them?
I did.
Give them treats, snacks?
Yes,
You have life experience other than being a police officer?
yes.
Based on your experience, did it appear, hold on 1 second.
I'm going to object to leading.
Just before you answer the question, Detective Size, Mr. Villarreal, can you go ahead and ask your question?
Did this appear to you to be anything that you recognized?
I'll let you answer that question.
It looks like an empty snack bag.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go to video number 3. What date did it say this was created?
July 28th, 2021.
Prior to having the cell phone extracted, did you see this video before that?
Yes,
Who showed it to you?
Miranda.
And did she provide you context about what was happening?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Well, she provided you context without telling me what she said.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is this?
Benji.
Okay. Moving on to video number 4. When was this created?
July 28th, 2021.
So same day as video number 3?
Yes.
What, if anything, can you hear Benji asking for?
Milk.
Moving on to video number 5. What day was this created?
July 28th, 2021.
Is that the same day as video number 3 and number 4?
Yes.
And this is approximately how many weeks before Benji's death?
3.
What, if anything, can you hear Benji asking for that?
Milk.
On to video number 6. What date was this created?
July 29th, 2021.
So the day after the last video?
Yes.
And looking at that video, is that gate that we previously mentioned that he was photographed on 8/17 of 2021 in the picture now?
Yes.
And again, who was this individual who would just hide over the gate?
Benji.
Moving on to video number 7, when was this created?
August 3rd, 2021.
And approximately how many weeks is that before Benji dies?
Just about 2 weeks.
Who is depicted in this individual in the video?
Benji.
Moving on to video number 8, when was this video created?
August 4th, 2021.
The day after video number 7?
Yes.
Who is this in the video?
Benji.
And can you hear what he's asking for, if anything?
Sounds like water.
Going on to video 9, what day was this created?
August 4th, 2021.
Same as video number 8?
Yes.
I want to pause for a second. There appears to be somebody at the beginning of the video, right?
Yes.
Do you recognize that voice?
Yes.
Who's,
The defendant.
and what do you hear him say?
Shut the fuck up.
And who is this individual?
Benji.
Again, how many weeks before he got
2 weeks.
on to video number 10? What day was this created?
August 6th, 2021.
Who is this individual right here?
Benji.
Can you tell who this is?
Leonidas.
Going to video number 11. Can you see when this video was created?
August 10th, 2021.
How many days before Benji dies?
7. Benji,
And then this individual right here.
Leonidas,
Going to video number 12. What day was this created?
August 10th, 2021.
I told you, Mom. I told you fucking Can you hold her now? Mommy, now. You can hold her now, Mommy. Stop on the bed. Hold her now. Now.
Who's this individual?
Benji,
And the one that was over here?
Leonidas,
And the person who walked in the room?
Miranda.
Moving on to video number 13. When was this video created?
June 6th, 2021.
At this point, are you able to see the locking mechanisms that were present on on August 17th of 2021 on these cabinets?
No.
Does there appear to be something here?
Yes.
And what was that?
Some kind of strap to keep it closed.
Going on to video number 14. When was this created?
June 8th, 2021.
Who's depicted in that video?
Benji,
And could you tell what he grabbed?
cookies.
Is that bread?
No.
And I should also go next. This latch, or this object right here. What did that appear to be to you?
Some type of locking mechanism.
On to video number 15. When was this created?
June 8th, 2021.
Who's depicted in that video?
Benji,
Can you tell what part of the apartment that is?
the kitchen.
Going on to video number 16. When was this video created?
June 8th, 2021.
Who's depicted in that video?
Benji,
And what does it appear that he is eating in that?
Jello.
So is that bread?
No.
On to video number 17. When was that video created?
June 8th, 2021.
that video?
Benji,
And what does it look like he's eating?
watermelon,
So not bread.
not bread.
On to video number 18. When was that video created?
June 8th, 2021.
Who's depicted in that video?
Benji,
Are you always eating?
no,
Does it appear to be bread?
no.
Going on to video number 19. When was this video created?
June 8th, 2021.
Who's depicted in the video?
Benji,
Can you tell what he's drinking?
I don't know what's in the cup, but he pulled out a milk jug.
Okay. Going on to video number 20. What date was this video created?
June 8th, 2021.
Who's depicted in the video?
Benji,
Can you tell, or does it appear? What does it appear that he's eating?
fruit cup,
Is it not bread?
not bread.
And then video number 21. When was this video created?
June 8th, 2021.
Who's in that video?
Benji,
Can you tell what he's holding?
carton of some type of drink, probably.
Okay. So, all those last videos, let's say, video numbers 14 through 21 were all on June 8th of 2021.
Yes,
So, that night, what can you tell him that he ate?
a lot of things that weren't bread.
Okay. Going on to video number 22. Can you tell, or what day was this video created?
June 10th, 2021.
Who is depicted in that video?
Benji,
And again, what part of the apartment is this?
the kitchen.
Going on to video number 23. What date was this created?
June 29th, 2021.
Who's depicted in this video?
Benji,
Does it appear you can fully open the refrigerator door?
no.
Going on to video number 24. What date was this created?
July 16th, 2021.
Who's depicted in that video?
Benji.
Are you aware of when police went out prior to his death for a welfare check?
Yes.
That was approximately July 20th, 2021?
Yes.
And in this video, do you notice anything as it relates to the appearance of Benji's face?
He looks injured.
Okay. What part of his face?
His eyes.
Is there something in his ears?
It appears to be bandaged.
And again, this video was created on what day?
July 16, 2021.
I'm going to video number 25. What day was this created?
July 16th, 2021.
Who's depicted in that video?
Benji.
Can you tell what he's grabbing?
Nutty Buddies,
Okay. Are you familiar with the Natty Buddy?
unfortunately.
What is a Natty Buddy?
It's a chocolate wafer bar.
Does it have anything on the inside?
Just like a cookie type wafer.
Does it have a flavor?
I don't think so.
What about peanut? Does it have peanut butter in it?
They could. The ones I've had don't.
Okay. Is that weird when he's grabbing that box?
Yes.
Are you able to tell what's in the forefront of this picture?
Bread.
Moving on to video number 26. What date was this created?
July 16, 2021.
Who's in that video?
Benji.
What does it appear that he's doing?
Drinking water.
Moving on to video number 27. Video number 27. When was it created?
July 16, 2021.
Who's depicted in the video?
Benji.
Does he eat the bread that's in the forefront of the video?
No.
28. When was it created?
July 15, 2021.
And who's depicted in that video?
Benji.
Finally, video number 29. When was that created?
July 21st, 2021.
Who's depicted in that video?
Benji.
Do we see now a change in now these locks are here?
Yes.
And does this appear to be the same lock on the fridge that was in the other videos?
No, it's different.
So this is as of July 21st of 2021.
Yes.
going to show you now what's been indicated State's Exhibit number 223. Technology. Looking at State's Exhibit number 223. When was this video created?
August 9th, 2021.
Approximately how many days before Benji dies?
5. I'm sorry. 8.
Who is that?
Benji.
Does it appear that he hits himself with that same level of force throughout the video?
Yes.
What happens when Miranda tells him to stop?
He stops.
Does that happen throughout the video?
Yes.
I'm not going to play this. Finally, I'm going to go to what's admitted, State's Exhibit number 77. These are text messages, correct?
Yes.
You can see the from and then the to, right?
Yes.
And this 210-739-2624, that's what you testified as to as the defendant's cell phone?
Yes.
Or this is to the defendant's cell phone, right?
Yes.
From Miranda's cell phone.
Yes.
So, what does she tell him? Are you able to read from her?
Yes. The top
Yeah, it's right here.
text. I don't want you to call or anything, but man, at least she's saying this boy is out of hand, has been crying all day for bread. I gave him some and he wants all of it.
Okay, and then he texts her what?
Just give it to the dude.
Okay, and then 3 from Brandon to Miranda.
He can just eat that and that's it. Just chill out.
And then Miranda tells Brandon what?
He wants the whole thing.
And then the defendant tells Miranda what?
Just give one by one.
And then again, the defendant tells Miranda what?
He don't need to eat dinner.
And then Miranda tells the defendant what?
This is just too much, him getting his way all the time and still not listening. He just finished one loaf and wants more. He's still yelling and crying.
And then Brandon tells Miranda what?
Just give it to him till he grows up take videos of him, or I'm sorry, till he throws up, take videos of him.
And then Miranda tells Brandon what?
I don't even have storage anymore from all the other videos I have of him.
And then Brandon tells Miranda what?
Well, delete some.
So, what day are all of these messages?
August 12th, 2021.
And that's how many days before Benji dies?
5.
And again, Brandon tells Miranda what?
He don't need to eat dinner.
I want to talk about child safe for a second. What is child safe?
Child Safe is an organization that assists with children that are involved in traumatic incidents.
Your Honor, can we approach, please?
Yes.
I don't know if there's a full answer, but I'm going to ask just to make sure it's on record. What is child safe?
Child Safe is an organization that assists children that have been involved in traumatic incidents. They help us, or they conduct interviews of children. They're specially trained to do that. We're small children, we don't interview them, but we rely on them to do that.
Okay. And are you present during those, you, meaning police, are you present during those interviews?
No.
Is it a neutral setting?
Yes.
Is there anybody else in the room other than the child safe interviewer and the child?
No.
Are they trained to deal with questioning children?
Yes, they are.
And in this case, was Brandon Jr., was he interviewed at child safe?
He was.
Are you aware of whether Brandon or Benjamin were ever interviewed at child safe for the welfare check on 7/21 when 20? I'm sorry, 7/20 of 21.
They were not.
So, other than interviewing the defendant, Miranda Casarez, having Brandon Jr. interviewed at child safe, who else was interviewed during the course of your investigation?
Benji's aunt, the defendant's sister,
Okay. And her name?
Candace Sanchez,
Okay. Who else?
Julia Center.
And what was her relationship to the case?
She was a citizen who tried to assist Miranda when Miranda was transporting Benji to the hospital.
Okay. She wasn't related by blood or marriage to any of the parties, right?
No.
Who else was interviewed?
We spoke to Erica Flores, that would be Benji's biological mother,
Okay.
and to Alice Casarez and April Casarez. Alice was Miranda's mother, and April was Miranda's sister.
Okay. And then who else you talked to?
Michaela Casarez, another sister of Miranda's.
Okay. So, other than interviewing the witnesses or having them interviewed, reviewing the cell phone, reviewing the crime scene photos, did you take any other actions on this case?
I did provide some photographs to Dr. Molina, photographs and videos that were taken from the cell phone data extraction because I wanted to provide her with a timeline of what we saw, how we saw Benji from April until the day he died.
Okay. So you provided those to Dr. Molina?
Yes.
Other than that, did you take any other actions on this case prior to seeking an arrest warrant?
No.
Based on the course of your investigation, reviewing the evidence, eventually did you have an arrest warrant issued?
Yes.
For who?
Both Miranda and the defendant.
And for what offense?
Injury to a child, serious bodily injury.
Yeah, this is how that's done.
Ms. Sawyers, did you need a break or were you able to take your position?
Why don't I get going, get a little bit down the road, and then we can take that break and take a break, so sure. So you understand that right now, Brandon is faced, like the indictment in this case, charges him with injury to a child, serious bodily injury by omission.
Yes,
correct?
yes, ma'am.
And there's a difference between an omission crime and an act, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you claim that there's injuries you observed on Benji in August 17th, 2021, when you were at the hospital, correct?
I did see injuries on him, yes.
And by injuries, bruising.
Correct.
Okay. And then you also commented on these bruises that you say that you discussed with Dr. Molina on August 18th or shortly thereafter.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you would agree with me that you did not seek an arrest warrant on August 18th for bruising to the child, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And he's not being charged, Brandon's not being charged with any injury to a child by act, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, let's talk about that. When you get an arrest warrant, you would agree with me that the standard of proof is just probable cause, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's far different than the standard of proof that's required in this court.
Yes.
So, now, when we were talking about this timeline, I want to point out that part of what Brandon's being accused of is that he intentionally and knowingly caused a serious bodily injury by failing to provide adequate nutrition, correct?
By his failure to act to protect Benji, yes.
Not by failure to act. Have you seen the indictment?
I have not.
Okay. I just asked you if he was being charged by injury, serious bodily injury by act or by omission, and you agreed it was by omission, correct?
Right.
Okay. And so by omission means that you have a duty, and the duties that were alleged in the indictment were failure to provide adequate nutrition, failure to provide hydration, and failure to seek proper medical care. Those are the three that are alleged by the state.
Okay.
Okay. Now, in regards to that, you understand that he has to be aware, either intentionally or knowingly, deprive the child of food, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so, in this regard, you would agree with me that on June 8th, that video that we saw about 14 different, let me be very clear. We saw 8 different videos on June 8th, 2021, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in that, this little kid has gotten cookies out, correct?
Yes.
He got a Jello cup,
Yes.
watermelon,
Yes.
some other kind of food that we couldn't tell what it was. He got milk,
Yes.
he got a fruit cup,
Yes.
and then what looked like maybe almond milk or some other type of milk carton.
Yes.
Okay, and so this is a lot for a little bitty kid, right? Lots of different types of foods.
It's a lot.
Right. And so, and you would agree with me that we do not see any changes on the locking mechanisms until right before, on July 15th, 2021.
Yes.
And from June 8th, when they recorded all these different foods that he has access to, you would agree with me that he has demonstrated that he is able, the one mechanism that was there on the refrigerator, that he was able, you physically saw him be able to open it and get in, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other mechanism that's a white mechanism that's on the tall pantry, you saw him be able to get into the pantry and that was there.
Yes.
Okay. So we have this long period of time where we have no other mechanisms that are even remotely preventing him from getting access, correct?
Correct.
And then on 7/20, when the police show up, the mechanisms that are now added sometime around July 15th, right?
Mhm.
From the
Yes.
timeline, they're not even locked, correct?
On the video, no.
Okay, well, and so they walk in unannounced, everything's dark, they're getting ready for bed, and none of the mechanisms are locked, right? The locking mechanisms, do you need to see the pictures?
Are you talking about the mechanism being locked on the videos?
Or on the videos, or even in the photos that they take. They take photos on 7/20/2021. Do you recall that?
You're talking about the police?
Yes.
Okay, it was during the daytime when they went.
It was, would you agree with me that it was 9 o'clock at night? On 7/20/2021?
During the consent search of the apartment?
No, sir. So there's two.
Okay, I'm sorry. I understand what you're saying. You're talking about earlier. I didn't look at that video. You're talking about the photographs and video from that night? I haven't seen those.
You never went and watched the July 20th, 2021 video?
I did not.
You never looked at the pictures?
No.
So when Officer Taylor tells Brandon and Miranda that they need to hold on to that SAPD number for future reference, you've never gone and looked at that SAPD number?
Ask me. At this point, he says he didn't watch any of the video, so she's going to ask questions about the content of the video. He's going to ask him.
Overruled.
You never went and looked at that San Antonio Police Department case number or anything to do with that case number?
I may have looked at the report to see when they responded over there, but I did not look at the video.
Are you aware that it captures Benji answering questions?
I am now.
So, and then not only that, but there's also going to be Child Protective Services that gets involved on 7/21/2021. You're aware of that, correct?
I did hear about that.
Okay. Did you go listen to the interviews of the children on 7/21/2021 with CPS?
No.
Because you are aware that as part of their investigation, they do ask the children standard questions, right?
Yes.
And those standard questions have to do with what food they have, how much they're getting, correct?
Yes.
And it has to do also with, has anyone hurt you, correct?
I don't ask those questions. I don't know exactly what they ask, but I would imagine they would ask those types of questions.
Right, but in your 30 years of experience, you run across the CPS reports in which they log these questions, and they're very standard questions, right?
I've seen their reports.
And whether or not someone has hurt them is one of the standard questions.
Yes.
And so, let's talk about your investigation. You state that Miranda consented to have her phone searched.
Yes.
All right. Now, Miranda may know what's on her phone. It's her phone, right?
Yes.
But we cannot assume that Brandon knows anything that's on Miranda's phone.
Judge, I'm going to object to calls perspective. This is what the defendant may think.
I asked for an assumption, not what he knows.
If you could rephrase the question.
You do not have, as part of your investigation, you were not able to determine having something on someone else's phone does not mean, would you agree, that Brandon has any knowledge of what's on that phone?
Judge, I'm going to object to calls for speculation.
That's overruled. You may answer.
And Judge, I specifically object. There's possible ways that he could know if he shared the phone with him, if he'd gone through her phone. So it calls for speculation is what he maybe have reviewed and not reviewed.
The way the question is asked, the objection is overruled.
Can you ask a question again, please?
You ever do that to me?
Sorry.
Oh, man. So the fact that something is on Miranda's phone does not mean that Brandon was aware of it.
Correct.
Okay. So, you know, when we see some behavior from Miranda on her phone, did you happen to become aware that she was, I guess, posting something about having difficulty with Benjamin?
Yes.
Okay. And would you agree with me that Miranda's frustration with Benjamin tends to be growing through the videos that you observed?
Judge, I'm going to object. It's hearsay. It calls for hearsay.
I don't think it calls for hearsay. I'm saying the frustration in her.
If you could rephrase your question as to where the answer would not be based off of hearsay, but off of the evidence that's in it.
Does her demeanor seem to be changing in the way that she relates to Benji in the last few weeks?
Yes.
Okay. And are you aware, did you become aware that after Benji's passing that she had mental health issues?
Judge, I'm going to object for the relevance, and I'm going to object as relates to hearsay.
Overruled.
Did you become aware that she had mental health issues?
No.
You did not become aware that she was checked in to a mental health ward?
No, ma'am.
So let's talk about who we interviewed and when we interviewed them. You say that you interviewed Miranda and Brandon, right?
Yes.
And you interviewed them the day Benji passes.
Yes.
Do you ever go back and interview them again?
No.
And so, would you agree with me that when you interview them, you don't ask the questions of, hey, how much did Benji have to eat? When did he last eat? What was Benji's timeline for the day? Correct?
When I interviewed them, no.
And after you meet with Dr. Molina on the 18th, you still don't circle back and say, hey, can you tell me, about this bruise or that bruise, correct?
They had mentioned that he injured himself. So that was all I had to tell Dr. Molina.
And I understand that, but as part of doing a thorough investigation, we want to gather as much information as possible, correct?
Yes.
And so it helps to know what their response would be to new evidence as you receive it, correct?
And to make this understandable, after the autopsy, I was told none of the injuries were fatal. So I didn't have a reason to confront them about these injuries on him beyond what they had already told me.
Well, we have a child that's passed, and regardless of whether injuries are fatal or not, you would agree with me that you want to make sure that you understand what the last few days of this child's life, what he was doing, right?
They told me.
Well, you didn't ask them specifically timelines of who he saw, when he saw them, what he ate, when he ate, correct?
Miranda said that he was in her care all the time.
Okay, so let's talk about, at least we have a short timeline for that morning. You would agree with me that Brandon goes to work that morning on August 17th, 2021.
Judge, I'm going to object to calls for your second. He has no other personal knowledge other than what came from statements through what she's asked the defendant and Miranda. So both of those are yours.
Can you come forward, please?
Okay, and so I'm referring to Defendant's Exhibit 33, that's already in evidence, and it contains what is the investigative report that the medical examiner looks at before they perform their autopsy. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, ma'am.
And at least their narrative, would you agree with me, states it's a 4-year-old white male reported unknown, deceased discovered unresponsive in bed, and stepmother started to drive deceased to a hospital when she called 911. SAFD, and what does that stand for?
San Antonio Fire Department.
Instructed them to pull over and initiate CPR. SAFD responded to a Valero gas station and took over CPR and transported the deceased to Children's Hospital of San Antonio. Decedent was pronounced in the ER, and the charge nurse reported apparent trauma to the head and back, and then it goes on to talk about the code defense. So that's the one. That's point one. So let's talk about if Miranda is the stepmother, correct?
Yes.
She says, at least in this narrative, that he was in bed next to her, correct?
Yes.
And then, in addition to that, would you agree with me that you found no evidence that Brandon Cervera was with the child from 7 a.m. until the child passed?
That's correct.
Okay. And so he was not there when EMS meets with Miranda and she's supposedly performing CPR.
Correct.
And so, all right, and then during this, it also includes a section in that same report that talks about the incident. And it is a long narrative, but would you agree with me that Miranda winds up calling 911 and she makes 3 calls?
Yes.
All right, and have you had an opportunity to listen to those 911 calls?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 49, 50, and 51. Do you recognize those as the videos, or excuse me, the audio recordings that you heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At this time, I'm considering to state and asking that they be admitted.
Your Honor, it's not going to object this to authentication, hearsay, on these terms.
Did you
You can go forward, yes.
did you listen to the video and recognize Miranda's voice?
Yes.
Okay, and would you agree with me that you listened to these at the time of when you acquired them?
Yes.
And that you are the one that acquired these 911 calls and then tendered them to the state?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, I move for the 49, 50, and 51 to be admitted.
Still going to object this, you're saying.
Your Honor, they're in the process of emergency. It's seeking medical care. It's also presence and suppression, excited utterances.
And so these are 911 calls at the time of the...
The Weaver, Your Honor.
Yes.
You may be seated.
Ms. Sawyers, if you want to continue, please.
Yes, at this time, I'm asking for Defendants Exhibit 49, 50, and 51 to be admitted.
Defense Exhibit 49, 50, and 51 are admitted.
And may I publish?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to play for you Defendants Exhibit 51 first.
Senator Fire EMS. Hello? Yes, hello? Yes, ma'am?
Can you hear me?
You're cutting in and out, but I can hear you now.
Can I bring back the direction?
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I can't hear anything you're saying. Can you go outside? Hello, ma'am? Hello?
Now, I'm going to play for you Defendants Exhibit 49.
San Antonio 911, this is Garcia speaking, police, fire, or EMS.
Hello? Yes, I speak, I'm on the road right now. I'm driving as fast as I can, taking my son Benjamin to Cervera to Santa Rosa. I have to take a nap because I'm so tired. I have a baby and he's coming home all night and hello?
Do you need to speak to EMS?
Yes.
Stand on line.
Okay.
San Antonio 911 EMS, what's the address?
Hello, can you hear me?
What's the address?
Oh yes, I'm on the road right now. I'm right here on Mulberry. I'm going towards Santa Rosa.
You're driving right now?
Yeah. I'm driving as fast as I can because I have my son Benjamin to with me.
Okay.
And I'm like, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm on the road right now.
Ma'am,
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but if you're driving to EMS to help you, you have to stop.
Okay, well, I don't know what's wrong with him. He's not responding to me. I took a nap and before I took a nap, I put him to take a nap.
How old is he?
He's 5 years old.
Okay, and
And
you need to pull over right now. You need to tell me where you're
okay.
at.
I'm not here on Valero by Josephine.
Josephine and what?
I don't know. I guess Broadway. Broadway. I just pulled over at the gas station at Valero.
So you're at Broadway and Josephine?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like,
Is he breathing?
I feel the heart. I feel the heart.
Okay. Okay. And he's not waking up?
No, he's not responding. He's looking over this, but he's not responding. Like, he has a habit where he throws tantrums and, I don't know if he woke up when I was sleeping. I'm just so tired because I think
Okay, I'm
I'm
not worried about, I just need to get information out of him. I'm not worried about why, anything like that. Okay, so, he is breathing, but not
Yes.
responding.
No.
Has he ever had a seizure before?
No.
Okay, does he have a fever or has he been sick?
No.
And you're at the Valero?
Yes, right here on Broadway and I'm
Okay,
doing
what are you in?
I'm in a gray Chevy Malibu.
Okay, can you please put your hazards on?
Yes, they are on.
Okay. And so, is he laying down?
I have him on the side. I have him in the front seat. I didn't know him in the bathroom.
Okay, make sure he's on his side, okay? Keep an eye on him. We want to monitor his breathing, okay? If we want to leave him on his side, that way if he throws up, he's not going to choke on anything, okay? They'll be there shortly. If anything changes before we get there, you need to call us back. If he stops breathing or anything, okay, you need to call us back. But I have crews on the way right now, okay?
Okay, yeah, we just I stopped, before I got in the car, I stopped, this girl had stopped to help me and I think she had called for me.
Oh, okay, well, if you left, we can't chase somebody down. You have to, you know, and so what was your address?
It was right here on Broadway and Josephine, not the better on the.
No, what was, where did
my,
it call?
my apartment at, 3031 Eisenhower Road.
3031 Eisenhower Road?
Yeah.
Okay, then we actually have somebody responding. Is that the Verano at the Heights Department?
Yes.
All right, was your husband calling maybe by chance?
I don't know.
Okay, all right, well, we're having crews headed to your location at Broadway and Josephine, okay?
Okay, can someone hurry up?
Now I'm gonna play for you, Defendant's Exhibit 50.
I don't know, one of the Garcia, can you please?
Can I get you that email?
You missed that line.
Yes.
Sandy, tell me fire engineer, what's the address of your emergency?
Josephine and Broadway, I just called.
Okay, what's going on?
Yes, my son, he's 5 years old and, I just called and he was, she told me to call back if he wasn't breathing. I don't see him breathing anymore.
You don't see him breathing at all?
No.
Okay, is his chest rising?
No. I feel like, I don't know if I feel his heartbeat. I don't know like, if it's like real low. I don't know.
Okay. Alright, do you know how to do CPR?
No, I don't.
Okay, is he on the floor?
He's on the seat. I don't want to put him on the floor to the top.
Well, are you in a car?
Yes, I'm in the car.
Okay, you
I really can't wait to see back because I have my baby and she's in the car seat. And it can only go back so far away and so far back.
You need it. What kind of vehicle are you in?
I'm in a gray Chevy Malibu. Hey. I don't know.
You say you're right there in the corner of East Josephine and Broadway?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of car are you in? Gray Chevy?
I'm in a Chevy Malibu, yes.
In the Valero?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no way you can lay him flat?
No, I don't know. I don't want to lay him on the ground. It's hot. So I don't.
Well, if he's not breathing at all, you need to get him on the ground and do CPR.
Okay, I can lay him on the ground. I don't want to get. Okay.
She said the car seat.
I'm laying him on the ground right now.
Okay, get him on the ground and do CPR. You can get the side of his seat and put your hand in the middle of his chest and place your fingers. And you need to push hard, 100 times a minute, okay?
Hey. Okay.
Okay, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how fast you want to go. Do you want to keep?
On his chest?
Yeah, on the chest. Center of
Like
the chest.
on the top of the chest?
Correct.
Okay.
Right in between the two nipples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
2, 3, 4,
Right, keep
5,
doing that.
6. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, you want to go down about 2 inches and let it come back up.
Okay.
Okay,
1,
keep doing it.
2, 3, 4, 5.
What kind of medical conditions does she have?
Huh?
Does she have any medical issues?
No, you don't have medical issues. He's just been having a tantrum for over a couple months now. And I don't know, he threw a tantrum last night and I went to rest and I was just tired and I lay down on the bed and like I put them to sleep in the room with me.
Okay.
I know. They're in the...
Are you still doing CPR?
Yes.
Okay, good. Keep doing it, okay?
And I took an alcohol and I just woke up and he wasn't responsible.
Okay. Keep doing CPR, okay? You're doing the best thing you can for him, okay? Looks like we have... Is there an ambulance there?
Can I call you? Okay.
Is there an ambulance there, man?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Are they doing CPR for you?
I think, okay. I think it's on the ambulance.
Okay, all right, here you go.
Yeah, I'm looking for a picture.
All right, now, when we look at the investigative report, it contains information that says around 10 a.m., stepmother woke up and noted descendant foaming at the mouth next to her on the bed. Exact position not described to the SAP. Then I'd like to show you, you've seen the videos that the state played earlier, correct?
Yes.
And there's 3 beds in the room that the children share, correct?
Yes.
And there's one bed in particular that's Benji's, right?
Yes.
Do you have the, or do you already have it?
No, these are the pictures.
And so, I'm showing you what State's Exhibit 46. This is from, you sent detectives out, you deployed detectives out to 3031 Eisenhower Road to photograph the scene, correct?
Yes.
And you did so before anybody else could go back to the scene.
Yes.
And by scene, you consider the scene to be 3031 Eisenhower Road, apartment number 1.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you think that something happened at the apartment, or you suspect that it happened at the apartment, correct?
Yes.
And so we see here in State's Exhibit 46, this has already been identified as the children's room, okay? And can you see the camera that's right here?
Yes.
And you receive a call you receive information, and it's noted in your report, that when the police officers are photographing, that the recording camera is going off, correct?
Yes.
And that specifically in your report, it states it's a Blink security camera.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as part of the Blink service, it's a subscription. Did you look into that?
No.
Well, so you wouldn't be aware that they would have had this saved to the cloud, the last 2 hours of video automatically saved to the cloud.
No.
And you didn't contact Blink security system to subpoena their records to see, or their videos to see if it captured the incident.
No.
And you're not aware that it only records on motion, correct?
Correct.
So if it records up to 2 hours and saves at least 2 hours, and no one had been at the apartment, it would have captured the very time period while Miranda was at the apartment with the children.
I don't know.
Well, if it records at least 2 hours, it would have been there.
I don't know.
So she says that her timeline is that she wakes up at 10 a.m., correct?
Yes.
And that, would you agree with me that 911 does not get called until 11 a.m.?
Yes.
So a full hour.
Yes.
And you didn't think to go ask for that security footage?
No.
There is, in State's Exhibit 47, would you agree with me that on the bottom of the photo to the left is Benji's bed?
Yes.
And in State's Exhibit 61, it's a closer up of his bed. Excuse me, is that correct?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 62, it's even closer.
Yes.
So the time when we come in and we have State's Exhibit 63, and we've already received testimony that was a yellow liquid substance.
Yes.
Correct? On his bed.
Yes.
And did you preserve that evidence?
No.
What color is urine tend to be?
Yellow.
Now you would agree with me that when they arrive on 8/17, there's no locks on, the locks that are there are all unlocked. There's not a single one of them that's locked up.
Correct.
Now, there's been videos in which we see that Benji appears in his room and he's crying,
Yes.
right? And you can agree with me that you weren't there, at the time that these were made,
Correct.
and you don't know what happened before or what happened after the surveillance video, correct?
Right.
And in regards to that, you don't know if the child is being asked to take a nap, correct?
Correct.
And asking for or throwing a temper tantrum for something in order to avoid having to take a nap, correct?
Correct.
So the context of that is important, right? Because if you're telling a child to go to bed and they are coming up with other excuses not to go to bed, when you tell them no, you're not telling them no as to the food, you're telling them no because you need them to go do something else that's very important for their welfare, which is to take a nap, correct?
Correct.
The sleeping is also important.
Yes.
And so you had evidence that Benji had been up all day, all hours of the day and night, correct?
I had a statement from Miranda.
And in the videos, he's oftentimes up at night while the other kids are sleeping.
Getting food, yes.
Well, it's not just getting food. He's wandering around his room, correct?
Yes.
And the thing is that he's not isolated from his siblings. He's not in a closet, correct?
No.
His other siblings are sleeping at that time.
Yes.
And let's talk about the text messages that the state showed you. If a child is eating a whole loaf of bread really quickly, you would agree with me that we would need to potentially be concerned with choking.
But I'm going to object as it relates to speculation.
Oh, you can answer.
We may need to potentially be worried about choking if he's eating this whole loaf of bread too quickly, correct?
Yes.
And so when Brandon says in the text message, give it to him one by one, that indicates don't just give him the whole loaf one by one, correct?
I'm going to object. It calls for speculation as to the defendant's intent.
That is sustained.
Well, would you agree that by giving someone something one by one, you're limiting or you're the rapidness in which they can eat something, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You're slowing it down a bit.
Yes.
All right. And on that text message, it states that he's already had one whole loaf, right?
According to Miranda, yes.
And you're also aware that there have been ongoing fights between them in which Brandon is saying just give him the bread, right?
Yes.
And Miranda's position was it's not nutritious, right?
Judge, I'm going to object as it calls for speculation as to what Miranda was thinking.
Your Honor.
Speak for themselves. It's not just deriving from the text messages.
He has seen the Albright evidence, and he can speak to conversations that he is aware of reviewing the records.
Are you asking us Miranda's outright statement that's in evidence, or are you asking for this detective to interpret the statement?
I think she makes statements.
Okay, if it's an outright statement that's already in evidence, that can be answered.
And she's referring to other arguments. That's the premise of the question.
He has made a review of the entire Albright file, and based off of the context of the nature of the relationship, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted, it's the nature of the argument in which they're having.
So I guess I'm confused as to what you're asking this detective to answer. What is your question?
My question is that Miranda's position was that she did not believe that the loaf was nutritious, that bread in and of itself is not nutritious.
And this is not a statement, from what I remember, not a statement made by Miranda, so you're asking him to interpret it. So I am going to sustain as to speculation.
In reviewing all of the evidence, though, did you come to become aware that their positions on the bread and the nutrition of the bread were in conflict?
Judge, I'm going to object to calls for hearsay. In reviewing the phone, the messages on the phone that are not in evidence.
Okay, then I misunderstood the question. Are you asking him about the messages that are in evidence?
No, just in general, like he's reviewed, in his investigation, he reviewed the data, and are they in conflict? Are their positions, I didn't ask what their positions were, I just asked, are their positions in conflict?
I'm going to sustain the objection.
So, let's talk about phone records. You would agree with me that you never asked Brandon for his phone, correct?
No,
But he willingly gave you, when you asked for the keys, he gave you the keys to the apartment.
yes,
And he signs a consent to search the apartment.
yes,
And he consents to come in and talk to you.
yes,
And he was never asked a second time to come in and talk to you, correct?
correct.
And have you testified previously that Miranda characterized Benji's behavior as a bad child?
Judge, I'm going to object. It is calls for hearsay as to what Miranda said.
Sustained.
Did you ever ask to speak with Miranda a second time?
No,
Are you aware that Tiffany Lozano, she's an officer that works with y'all? Do you know Tiffany Lozano?
are we talking about a CSI?
Yes,
Okay,
I apologize. Is it a crime scene investigator?
yes.
So she's not.
She's not sworn officer, no. She's a civilian.
Okay, but she came out and she's the one that took pictures of the car that Miranda arrived at the hospital in.
Yes,
And you would agree with me that she took photos of the front seat of that car,
yes.
and that she also takes a urine sample from the front seat of that car. Are you aware of that?
Object. It's background evidence as to what the substance was on the seat. There's no evidence that it was urine.
That's sustained. If you want to re-ask the question without that conclusion, Ms. Williams.
Did she take a sample of the front seat of the car?
Yes,
And that was never tested, correct?
correct.
Now, would you agree with me that in speaking with Julie Centaur, she claimed that the child was not breathing at the time that she saw the child. It was not responsive at the time she saw the child.
Judge, I'm going to object for hearsay and I'm objecting to the line of questioning. She already confronted this witness and we took a break while she could listen to her statement and she was confronted with any inconsistencies. So as it relates to this line of questioning, we object to hearsay.
Your Honor, it's impeachment, and she said something differently in court after asking me asked.
Okay, why don't you come forward, please?
All right, so you would agree with me though. Have you been to the location of 3031 Eisenhower Road?
Have I been there? No.
Oh. So, you say that you created a timeline video, digital video for Officer Molina, correct?
I created a timeline using photographs and videos from Miranda's cell phone to provide to Dr. Molina.
Right. And so, in regards to that, would you agree with me, though, that you leave out the ones of Benji sitting around the table eating with the family?
I did not provide all of them to Dr. Molina.
And in fact, you only provided one photo that showed him having any food
I believe so.
with the family.
Yes.
And so, you would agree with me that you picked out the ones that told the narrative that,
No.
that you felt was important?
No. I picked dates that would cover that time frame, just to show how he was in April up to the day he died, how he changed. That was the only reason for those photographs. It wasn't to impress any kind of decision on Dr. Molina, which I can't do anyway. She has to conduct her investigation, and that's way beyond me.
All right. Did you see Miranda at the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. And would you agree with me that her demeanor was, what was her demeanor?
By the time I spoke to her, her demeanor was It was calm, but it was somewhat in shock. She didn't appear very distraught.
And you would agree with me, though, that Rain was crying?
Yes,
He was distraught.
yes.
I pass the witness.
Just have a couple follow-up questions for you.
Sure.
So that 911 call that we heard in defendants exhibits 49 through 51, that was Miranda, correct?
Yes,
In that, did you hear Miranda say that Benji has never had a seizure?
yes,
And she made several references to having tantrums the night before. Do you recall hearing that?
yes.
So in looking at State Exhibit ADP, you agree with me that 8/16/2021 was the night before?
Yes.
I'm gonna fast forward a little bit.
You know, I'm fucking crying every night. Whenever fucking people are trying to sleep around here.
You're the dumbass who are like, oh, it's like up the way you watch when he gets up.
From the context, are you able to tell who they're talking about?
I believe they're talking about Benji.
Okay. And did you hear Brain say, you're the dumbass who stays up and watches to see if he gets out?
Yes,
When I'm trying to get on the water, he didn't fucking come.
And did you hear Miranda say, in reference to what she was apparently trying to give him?
yes.
What was it?
Water, I believe.
Okay. So again, this is talking about the night before.
Yes,
In those videos that we looked at, in State's Exhibit number 78, which are the surveillance videos, when the locks appear at night, were they open or were they closed?
they were closed,
They were locked, right?
locked.
As it relates to the police security cameras, is there a subscription associated with those?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Do you have any familiarity with any kind of like these ring cameras, fleet cameras, things like that?
Yes,
They often have like subscriptions associated with your ability to keep those videos and retain them. Are you aware of whether or not Brandon or Miranda paid for that service to retain those videos?
I don't know.
When talking, Ms. Lawyer's asking questions about, how sleeping is important and sleeping, is important for kids, and then related to Benji being up all night. In those videos, let's talk about the ones in the kitchen. What is Benji doing at night in the kitchen?
Getting food.
In the videos in the bedrooms, what is he doing in those?
Looking, or either trying to get out of the room to get food or looking for food in the room.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor. That is a misstatement of the evidence, and he has no personal knowledge.
You're objecting to speculation?
Yes.
It's a statement.
In those videos, do you see Benji getting out of the room?
Yes,
Do you see him climbing the fence?
yes,
Do you see him moving objects to get over the fence?
yes,
And outside that room is the kitchen?
yes.
So other than the barrier, the gate, were you aware of other locking mechanisms in the home?
Yes. There were locks on the door, the bedroom door itself as well.
Were there other choking hazards besides bread in the house?
Yes.
Okay. Did you notice any locks on the cabinets in the kitchen where people like traditionally keep like chemicals?
No.
Did you notice locks on the the bathroom cabinets where items like medication are kept?
No.
As it relates to locks, where were those locks located? What was behind every single one of those locks?
Food.
So looking at State's Exhibit number 83. Appear to be the refrigerator to you?
Yes.
And then 29.
Pantry.
Pantry. You saw Benji get into the pantry in some of those videos, right?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been admitted to State's Exhibit number 38. Does that appear to be inside the pantry?
Yes.
State's Exhibit number 40. Particularly this part, and I'm going to show you 41. What is that?
Bread.
They appear to be full loads to you?
Yes.
If you were worried about your child gaining weight, would you lock up the food?
No.
Did you ever go through any of the medical records?
The only medical records I saw pertaining to Benji were the ones shared with me by Dr. Molina, and those were growth charts.
Okay. So you're not aware of the 7/21/21 visit where the defendant claims that they're having trouble putting on weight, getting Benji to gain weight.
No.
And again, these photos were taken after 7/21/21.
Yes.
I'll pass the witness charge.
Okay, what's your surveillance? Which one?
This is
I'm showing you what State's Exhibit 78. Oh, maybe.
Is there a remote up there?
Is it were you on this? Now, who's in charge of, so Miranda, it's her phone, and through your investigation, did you learn that Miranda's the one that's in charge of the surveillance, correct?
She showed me the surveillance on her phone, so I guess she was monitoring it on the phone.
Right, and so she was the one who would pull them down and save them to her phone, or preserve them, right?
Yes.
And so you're relying on only what she's pulled down,
Correct.
because you didn't go ask if there was additional ones that you could retrieve, right?
Correct.
So during July 20th, 2021, police contact the welfare check. They learned that the child has a behavioral specialist appointment. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. And so there's videos that are being saved potentially by Miranda, but they're Miranda who's saving them to her phone. And there's one on 7/28, and hold on before we get there. It says 12:43 a.m. It's number 3, right?
Yes.
And would you agree with me, these times are not necessarily accurate because of the UTC times for the cell record report?
That's a question better asked for a detective that downloaded the phone.
Right, but, so we can't tell what time these actually relate to as far as whether, because it's on UTC time, we don't know if that's local time right now or some other time period, correct?
It would depend on whoever downloaded the report, if they converted it. There's an option to convert it when you use the Cellbrite.
Okay,
So if somebody downloaded this and converted it from the UTC, it would be the actual local times.
but you don't know if that was done here.
On this, I do not.
Okay, so in any event, that 7/20/21 welfare check, there was accusations that Benji had been scratching his eyes, right?
I believe so.
Okay, and then, so playing number 3. I want to call your attention to his arms. Do you see that he has wearing something on his arms?
Yes.
Okay. Now, stopping it at 29 seconds in, do you see that he's removed whatever's on his arms?
Yes.
Okay. The state asked you about the locks on 7/21/2021, and they said, after the locks are put on, are they locked? And you said yes, correct?
Yes, and some of the videos, they are locked. You see Benji unlocking.
Okay. Well, to be clear, let me show you what's 28, and that's on July 15th, 2021. You would agree with me that on July 15th, there's no outside mechanism to lock,
Right.
correct? All right. Now, do you notice how he's hunkering down here?
Yes.
Did your kids ever squat when they pooped in a diaper?
Sure.
Does he look like he's squatting to poop?
I'm gonna check the false speculation.
Let me ask this, I'll ask a different question.
If you can,
Did you hear him grunting?
Yes.
okay, thank you.
And back here in the background, it's, again, July 15th, you see water bottles that are out in the open.
Yes.
You see dishes that have food around, it's not locked up, correct? That where food has been being prepared for the
Yes.
family. And then I'm gonna play for you 27, which is from 7/16, the next day. Again, would you agree with me, there's no locks?
Yes.
Now, he picks up the bread in this one and he puts it back down, right?
Yes.
Okay. He's not so starving that he is going to just eat whatever he can find, right? He's selecting what he wants to eat.
I'm gonna check this. All that question is a speculation as it relates to what is going on through Benji's mind.
That's sustained.
There's food here that he turns away.
Yes.
And then the one from 7/21, July 21st, 2021, and it's on video number 29. And now, for the first time, would you agree with me that we do see that some locks have been added, right?
Yes.
And they were present on 7/20/2021 when the officers came for the welfare check the night before.
Yes.
And when they came for the welfare check, these were not locked in those photos that I showed. Have you seen the photos?
No.
Okay, well, photos are in evidence, and if the photos show that they're not locked, you wouldn't dispute that,
Correct.
right? She weren't there.
Right.
But you can see right here that in this video, the refrigerator's not locked. Or Benji was able to unlock it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so he's able to get into the refrigerator. And also, we can see dishes again that are on the sink. And he got some water, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, the last surveillance video you have is from July 21st, 2021, correct?
Yes.
So you don't know whether those locks ever got relocked again, whether they even utilized the locks. You just know that they're present, correct?
Correct.
I pass the witness.
One brief observation. what's been admitted already, State's Exhibit number 86, which was testified was taken on 7/2021. Does that appear locked to you?
Yes.
Absolutely.
No further questions at this time.
May Detective Size be excused?
Please don't recall, please.
Detective, thank you very much for your time today. Just please keep in touch with the state in case we need you back, and if you could hand those to the state, I believe, on your way.
Yes.
Oh, those are items of evidence. You can hand them to the state. They'll make sure they get in the right place. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, at this time, Your Honor, we call Dr. Eric Christensen.
Can you please have a seat, sir? Could you please raise your right hand and state your full name?
Eric Dean Christensen.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. That microphone can be moved however you need to, and just, I think you've been through this before. We have a court reporter with us. Just make sure she can hear you. Counsel, please go ahead.
Thank you. If you can state your full name for the record.
Yes, Eric Dean Christensen, C-R-I-K, middle name Dean, D-E-A-N, last name C-H-R-I-S-T-E-N-S-E-N.
And what is your profession?
I am a forensic pathologist.
Okay, and in regards to being a forensic pathologist, let's start with what's your education background?
My educational background is, after graduating high school, I attended college where I completed a bachelor's degree in philosophy with minor in chemistry, minor in German. Went on to medical school at the University of Virginia. And after graduating from medical school, did a categorical pediatric year at Walter Reed Army Medical Center with the intent of going into pediatric oncology, but decided not to do that. So did some additional work for the Army for a few years in primary care, taking care of a wide variety of patients before going back and completing residency in anatomic and clinical pathology within the Army. And then eventually...
Let's stop you there. In your residency, when did you do your residency with the...
Did you say when?
Yeah, when did you do?
I did my residency from 1994 to 1998.
1994 to 1998?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was with who?
That was at Madigan Army Medical Center in Tacoma, Washington.
And then from there, where did you go?
After finishing my residency, I went and worked as a hospital pathologist, director of the autopsy service, director of the blood bank at Fort Bragg for 2 years, and then left the Army to complete fellowship training in forensic pathology at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay. And when did you go into your fellowship?
Started in July of 2000 and finished in June of 2001.
And from there, after you finish your fellowship, where do you go?
So after completing my fellowship, I stayed in Richmond as one of the staff pathologists in that office for 1 year, and then moved to Greenville, South Carolina, where I was one of 2 medical examiners in Greenville County, where we did autopsies for that county and several adjacent counties. Was there for 6 years, and then in 2008 moved to Utah, where I have worked until the point of my retirement this past April.
Is that Salt Lake City, Utah?
In Salt Lake City, yes.
And so from 2008 to present, where have you been employed?
I worked in that office for 8 years initially as an assistant medical examiner, and then was appointed the chief medical examiner for the state of Utah beginning in July of 2016, a position that I held until I retired on April 1st of this year.
And so let's talk about do you serve on any board certifications? Do you have any holding board certifications?
Yes, I'm board certified by the American Board of Pathology in anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology. I'm also a diplomat level certification from the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators.
And then are you also a diplomat on the National Board of Medical Examiners?
That's just the standard licensing exam that everybody has to pass once you complete medical school.
And then licensures, where are you licensed to practice medicine?
I'm currently licensed to practice medicine in Utah and Virginia.
And in regards to your professional association with service, have you had any involvement in those?
Yes, I'm currently a member of the Autopsy Standards Committee for the National Association of Medical Examiners. I've served as the reviewer and committee chair for the best written paper competition for the annual meeting of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences. And I've served on some other committees as well. I was previously on the Inspection and Accreditation Committee for the National Association of Medical Examiners, currently on the Space and Aeronautics Committee for that group as well.
And in regards to committees, are you on any epidemiologic review committees?
Yes.
Just pronounce that.
Epidemiologic, yes. I have been, during my time in Utah as an employed medical examiner by the state, I was involved in multiple different committees that reviewed deaths with the purpose of trying to sort out, are there systemic issues here that we can use to apply that will help reduce similar deaths in the future. And so we would every month have a child fatality review meeting. Every month we would also have a suicide fatality review. There was a domestic violence fatality review meeting that I met periodically. There are probably others. There are at least 2 or 3 others that I can't think of, but I was also, by statute, a member of the Controlled Substances Advisory Board for the state of Utah, which would make recommendations to the legislature each year on what substances, new substances or things might need to be added to the Controlled Substances Act to be regulated in that way. And then I also served for a brief period of time on the Cannabinoid Product Board for the state, where we made recommendations relative to the use of medical marijuana in the state of Utah.
And are you currently on the sudden death in the young clinical review committee?
I am, yes.
And what year did you start or join that committee?
It started, so the Sudden Death in the Young is a grant program from the CDC where we review the sudden deaths of all infants within the state, and actually all children in the state between birth and 18 years with consent from families, gather samples for genetic testing in those individuals. And I'm part of what's called the Advanced Clinical Review Committee for that grant, where we review all of those deaths and make an ascertainment as to whether we believe their death was related to a seizure, whether it was related to a cardiac rhythm disturbance, or something else, or it's explained in some other way.
And then have you received any awards?
Probably. I don't remember that part of it. I did receive this year an award from the Department of Health that was awarded by the Lieutenant Governor for my work in the office prior to retirement. I actually don't even remember the name of it now. It's named after a woman who was the first female legislator, a member of Congress from Utah, who was also a physician.
And then in regards to publications, have you had any publications?
I guess.
Okay. And primary and also as a co-author of publications?
Yes, I've primarily authored a number of publications. I've co-authored many, many more publications, and have been also the co-author for a number of abstracts that have been submitted for review in meetings and subsequently published. In
all, how many publications do you think that you might have had?
I have not counted that up. I don't know. Dozens, I would say, but I don't know.
20 or 30?
Yeah, a few dozen at least.
Okay, and then in regards to have you ever lectured, been invited to lecture from 10 places?
Yes.
Okay, and how many lectures have you approximately given in your career?
Dozens of those as well. I get invited periodically, and I lecture to all sorts of groups, from spoken at professional meetings as an invited lecturer. I teach at the medical school at the University of Utah, to pathology residents, to our forensic pathology fellows, as well as to medical students. Lecture to police organizations, funeral directors associations, basically anyone who has an interest in what it is we do and why it relates to what they do.
And in the course of your career, how many autopsies do you think you have performed?
Somewhere over 7,000.
Okay, and so let's talk about Benjamin Cervera. Have you had an opportunity to review his case?
I have.
And in reviewing his case, do you recall the items that you have reviewed?
I reviewed almost 1,600 pages of medical records. I reviewed San Antonio Police Department report from July 20th, the night that a welfare check was called and they went to his house, and I also reviewed the associated body-worn camera video from that visit. Reviewed the subsequent medical records, specifically the CPS records, rather, related to their investigation after the referral. I think that report was dated the 21st or 22nd of July. What else have I reviewed? EMS records.
Did you review letters from the prosecutors from Dr. Hooper I'm sorry, from Dr. Lucifer and Dr. Molina to the prosecutors?
There were multiple letters that I reviewed. I think there were 2 from Dr. Lucifer and 3 from Dr. Molina that were not written by either of those doctors, but they were essentially the contents of statements that were provided by the prosecutor to, I don't know if they were disclosed to you, I'm not sure where they were originally intended to go, but they are an outline of opinions of those 2 doctors.
And did you review the birth and death certificates for Benjamin and Cervera?
I did.
As well as the autopsy report with the accompanying photographs?
Yes.
The x-ray and the accompanying documentation?
Yes.
Did you review the color growth chart and graph from Dr. Molina that has been published to the jury?
Yes.
And did you review photographs from the apartment from 8/17/2021?
Yes, I did.
As well as hospital photos from 8/17/2021?
Yes.
And the morgue photos from 8/18/2021?
Yes.
As well as the items that were preserved by that were contained in any photos, one of which has been admitted as evidence?
Yes, I believe there were 3 of those.
As well as cell phone videos and stills of Benjamin from early afternoon on August 17, 2021?
Yes.
I'm sorry, early afternoon, or was it in the morning?
That day, it's date stamped that day. I don't know specifically what time it is.
And then have you reviewed trial or transcripts of Dr. Lucifer and Dr. Molina's testimony regarding Benjamin's death?
Yes.
All right. Now, in reviewing the evidence or the items you had available to you, have you seen, let me ask you this, have you seen a lethal starvation case before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and have you seen it in children or adults?
I have, in an adult, I have performed the autopsy on one individual who starved to death, primarily from schizophrenia. He refused to eat because he thought he was being poisoned. And he was a prisoner at the state prison and eventually died from that. I have reviewed other child starvation cases in my consultation practice.
And in regards to lethal starvation in children being the cause, classified as the cause, how common is that?
It's very rare. Very rare in the United States. It's actually one of the leading causes of death in children worldwide. But that is mostly in the third world in the United States, and most of the developed world, that's a very rare thing to happen.
And in fact, you heard Dr. Molina's testimony that there's only been one other case besides Benjamin Cervera that's ever been, like in the last 20 years, that they've claimed was lethal starvation.
That's correct.
Okay. And so, how do you make a diagnosis when you're evaluating the case that comes into you?
It all depends on the nature of the thing it is you're looking at. But when we approach autopsies, and the attempt is to figure out why did this person, or in a case like this, why did this child die, and not just why did they die, why did they die when they did. And so there are a number of things that you will look at. Certainly, you will want to review all the investigative information that's available at the outset. There is no case that I'm aware of where I've had every bit of information available to me before I did the autopsy. And so you gather as much information as you can about what is known at the time that you start the exam, and you use that somewhat to guide what you do. But we also, the things that we do during the exam are, we try and always do the same things, collect the same samples, take the same photographs, and do things so that we don't miss things, because we only have really one shot at doing that exam. Once we're complete and the body's released, the family will, arrange for it to be interred or cremated or whatever. And so we do whatever we do in a way that we can answer the questions that will come up in the course of the investigation, because we just don't always know on day one what we're going to need to know.
And so after you do your initial autopsy, then is there additional steps that you engage?
So nearly always we would be waiting for some period of time for toxicology results. I think the fastest lab I've ever worked with will generally take at least 3 weeks to get toxicology results to us. In the meantime, we gather additional information, and that can be everything from police reports to try and look at what they know. We don't work for them, so it's, we're not trying to get specifically necessarily be influenced by them, but we need to know what they know as best we can. We will gather whatever medical records we can. If there are, and in a child case in particular, we're concerned both about the medical records concerning the terminal or final event, but we also want to look at the medical records related to their birth, medical records related to their visits to their pediatrician, whatever it is, that might help us understand what is their basic level of health and what are their issues. We will also try and look at if there are witness statements that are made about those. We'll try and look at those. If there are photographs from the scene of death or from the hospital, or wherever, we'll try and gather those because those also provide us additional information. It will really depend somewhat on the case. And then that information that we gather is used to try and come to a conclusion as to the cause and the manner of death.
Now, why would you need medical records to run back all the way to birth?
Because it tells you about what their birth records in particular tell us things like, was this child premature? Was this child in any way diseased? Does he have any congenital anomalies or birth defects that would influence his current health? And sometimes we find that there's no relevance there, but unless you look, you don't know.
And then in regards to literature, I mean, this is as you stated, starvation is very rare to be determined as a cause of death in the United States. So does literature play a part in this?
Yes, in just about every case where we establish what we call a differential diagnosis, where we say, okay, what are the possibilities for why this person or this child is dead? Based on the things that we find at autopsy, based on the things that we know when we get to that point, and then from there we do further exploration to try and get to either include or eliminate those possibilities as we go along, and hopefully get to the answer. Just about every medical examiner's office will tell you they have a small rate of cases, usually less than 1%, where no cause can be identified. Just about everything we do, we don't find a cause of death. But those are very unusual. And so other than that, then it comes down to can we find enough information that helps us narrow it to one cause and exclude all other causes, or comfortably exclude all other causes. There's a variety of levels of certainty that go with that. For example, if someone is shot and identify a gunshot wound, recover a bullet, and those things, that's near certainty in terms of the cause of death. Other things are less certain. Someone might have, for example, an overdose, but the levels of the drugs might be not what we typically see in an overdose situation, but we don't find any other competing cause of death. And so there certainly does come levels of certainty. And at some point, if you can't reasonably exclude other causes, then what we're left with is what we call an undetermined cause of death, which then by default nearly always results in an undetermined manner of death as well.
Now, does literature provide specific guidance for forensic pathologists in classifying the severity of malnutrition in cases where that is in question?
Yes. So, like was said, these cases are rare. Nobody sees a lot of them, and many people will probably go their entire career and never see one. And so, when you have cases with things that are that unusual, it's important to look at the medical literature and understand what is out there for people that have seen more, or people that have aggregated a collection of cases like that and documented those findings. And there are a number of articles in the forensic literature that do that, that provide guidance on how you assess the degree of starvation present in someone who has died, and further go on and discuss what are the autopsy findings, what are the other things that we see that help us make that diagnosis, that not only are they starved, but they starved to death.
Okay, and so when you say not only are they starved, but they starved to death, so is there a spectrum, of nutrition, I guess, or malnutrition?
Yes. So there's a number of terms that I guess have been used that you've heard over the course of this. So malnutrition is a term that simply means bad nutrition, and that can be bad because it's not enough. It can be bad because it's the wrong stuff. It can be bad for other reasons. Undernutrition specifically means that the person or child is not getting enough food to provide their nutritional needs. Starvation is just a term that means this person is undernourished to a period of time where it's putting their life in jeopardy, potentially. And so all of those things we look at. There are the forensic literature, at least two prominent sources and one author that has published in multiple locations, including 2 textbooks, has discussed the use of what I believe Dr. Molina described as clinical categorization systems or classification systems that developed to define or to describe how children, specifically children, are undernourished and the degree of their malnutrition. And those classification systems can then provide guidance on how does this specific case fit into the overall pattern of what we see in other fatal cases. In specific, the Waterloo classification has been recommended by Dr. Medea, who's a forensic pathologist from Germany, as being reliable in looking at the degree of malnutrition that is present. And he is also looking at his own cases as well as other cases that are published in the literature, have been able to describe the degree when classified according to the Waterloo classification, that deaths resulting from starvation nearly always fall within the severe range of malnutrition by that classification. There are some that are in the moderate range. There are none that he reports that are in the mild range. And so that literature does provide some guidance on how you apply these to children who have passed away.
And so in regards to the forensic literature, despite Dr. Molina's statement that these are only used in a clinical setting, did you find any substantiation that they're used and relied on by forensic pathologists?
Yes, and that they can be, yes.
Okay, and Dr. Medea is, would you say, a leading expert on starvation?
He as a forensic pathologist, he has published more literature related to fatal starvation than any other source that I can find.
And he recommends using those classifications to determine that scale, correct?
Yes, he does.
Okay. And at this time, Your Honor, we're getting really close before I dive off into something else.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to break for the day. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. We are going to meet tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Please remember the instructions. Do not look up or research anything about the case or anything you may have heard during the course of the trial. Do not read or listen to any media accounts of this trial or speak to anyone about any media accounts. Do not read or engage with any online comments that may be associated with the trial, and do not speak to anyone about the case or the evidence you have seen or heard, including other members of the jury. I hope you have a very safe travel home, and we will see you tomorrow at 9.
All right, jury.